this is Laura from LiveVisions.com, and I wanted to give you some information on some aspects and a little bit about my teaching style and what you would see if you took a class with me, okay? A lot of people are confused as to how to spot an aspect and how to recognize what an aspect is. And they're not sure because everybody differs on orbs and how that all works. Well, I'm going to explain a little bit of that to you today. For class purposes, we're going to use orbs of 10 degrees for all of the major aspects, just so it's easier to spot. As you go into astrology, you will start to make your own orbs based on what works best for you and what you feel is most accurate. Every astrologer has their own, usually it's within a couple degrees of orb that they use for the most part. Now, here I notice on a conjunction, it says, an 8-degree orb, but I'm going to go with a 10-degree just so you know. So let's get started. Let me get my pen, and we will talk about conjunctions. We have one here, Sun and Venus, and we have another one, Jupiter and Mars. Sorry, I messed up my little circle there. Okay, and what does this mean? Well, this conjunction right here is within that 10-degree orb. So it's 8 degrees and 9 degrees, so it's a 1-degree orb. And this is an exact conjunction. They're both 19 degrees. And with conjunctions, you really want to look at, like conjunctions when they're together, they add energy to one another and they blend together. And it could be positive or negative depending on how the energy used and the planets involved and the sign that they're in and the house. It all comes together. Well, for this conjunction in particular, a lot of times you always want to look at something is conjunct the sun if it's damaged by the sun's rays, and we call that a combustion. So if something is next to the sun and it's damaged by the sun's rays, we call that planet is combust. Now, if a planet is, like this one, 19 degrees sun and 19 degrees Venus, it's like sun and Venus are one, okay? And if it's within a really tight orb, you want to look at the minutes, and the minutes are here, 51 minutes and 50 minutes on this one. And this is actually my chart, but I don't know why, but on this software it shows it as a minute apart, but on other software it shows it both at 51. But anyway, it's still considered safe from the sun's rays because of this. It's considered in the heart of the sun, and therefore it wouldn't be damaged by the sun's rays, okay? So we call this cazimi in astrology, okay? So if a planet is, and right here you want to know within 17 minutes is the rate in which a planet would be cazimi, which is safe from the sun's rays, okay? All right. So then you look at, I'm going to look at something else. Let's say if this Venus, okay, were 25 degrees, and the sun was at 19 degrees like it is now, it would still be conjunct, but it would be combust because it would be, a little bit hurt by the sun's rays. Now, let's say if this Venus was like 16 degrees and the sun was at 19, then yeah, it still combusts. It's close to that sun, So that's a little bit of how to tell. So let's do this a little different. Let's say this conjunction, both of these numbers are the same, okay? This orb here, 19 degrees orb. And the minutes, let's say this one had, I don't know, we'll go with, this is going to be 50, and let's say this one was 20, okay? Well, this would still not be safe from the sun's rays because it's not considered combust. Only 17 minutes in between these two numbers can be allowed, okay? I hope this kind of explains it a little better. All right. So that's about the conjunction. Now, let's go and we're going to talk about the opposition. And let me get my computer back here. And we're going to talk a little bit about the oppositions. Okay, I added some. Now, the Sun and Venus are opposing Neptune in the second house. Now, how do you figure out? You're saying, well, how do I know if it's an opposition or not in my own chart? Well, an opposition is an angle that's 180 degrees. It is going to be 6 signs away in the chart. And what this does is it creates some sort of opposition between opposing forces between the houses that it's in and the planets that are opposing each other, okay? And a lot of times this can have to do with people and relationships, and, it depends on the house and the sign it's in, too, and the planet involved. But, like, in my particular chart, it would be like opposing forces as far as other people's money and my money, okay? Or, I found, at least this is how I found that it worked out in my chart. I have issues with this, and we'll get into squares later, and I'll show you more about this. But, okay, let's figure out how this is an opposition. Remember, we're talking about 6 signs away, not 6 houses, because if you count houses, you'll get confused. Houses are these little, you see this? Let me get my arrow again. Okay, houses are here. This is a line. This is the cusp of a house, and this is a house. Okay, so this is your 9th house. So you're not going to count houses. You're going to count signs. So let's count, like the 19 degrees Sun and Venus. So we're going to go 1, which is right here. And we're going to say that that's 19 degrees, and that is in the sign of Pisces. So that's 1, 2, 19 degrees Aquarius, 3, 19 degrees, Capricorn, 4, 19 degrees Sag, 5, 19 degrees Virgo, and 6, 19 degrees Uranus. And you're going to say, and that's your opposition, but you're going to say, hey, but that's 21 degrees. That's not 19. And that's okay, because remember the orbs we talked about? This would be an extra 2-degree orb. We're allowed 10-degree orb. Remember, we're allowed 10 degrees between. So this would still qualify as an opposition. All right. Now we're going to go to the next sign. Let me get out of this. Let me delete and we're going to go to the square now. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the square. Okay, I drew in my squares, and let me get my arrow. Here we go. Okay. So now we have our squares, okay? And we have a square, we know, between my moon and my sun and Venus, okay? So a square is just know this. A square is where you're going to have issues in your chart. Just know. It's where you're going to have some struggles, some, issues, and it's going to be things that you need to overcome in your chart to become successful. A lot of times, a lot of people who do have a lot of squares are quite successful because it gives them the push and the drive to overcome and move forward, okay? So basically, this is a 90-degree angle, and it's 3 signs away. Not houses, but signs. You're looking at the signs, okay? So, like, this moon is in Cancer, okay? So the moon is at, 15 degrees, okay? So the moon is at 15 degrees Cancer, so we're going to go 1, 15 degrees Gemini, 2, 15 degrees Taurus, 3, 15 degrees Aries. And you're like, hey, but this is 19 degrees. That's okay because it falls within the 10-degree orb. So you're going to say 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It's got an extra 4 degrees. So that's okay because we're allowed, remember, we're allowed up to 10 degrees orb, extra orb. So that falls into the square. And what does this mean for me? Well, it means that I have issues with, I'm an independent person, but at times I feel like I want to nurture people a lot, and this can pose a problem, to me. Because, I'm an independent person. I want to do my own thing, but yet I want to take care of other people. I want to nurture them. But do you see how this can pose a problem again with money? And this is so true in my life. I've learned so much from this square. It's been awful, but I've learned it was not a nice lesson to learn. I've learned that, you can't take care of everybody, and I learned, too, that sometimes, and it shows it in my chart, me wanting to nurture people is not really good. And I found that a lot of times I would help people out, and when I needed help, not there, or not just that, but it was like, I don't know, I was attracting people into my life that wanted financial assistance, shall we say, and this was not good for me. And if you see, remember before we had an opposition between the 8th house and my 2nd house, other people's money and my money, or shall I say lack of other people's money? Anyway, I don't know, but anyway, I learned a lot from this square, okay? And that's what they're there for. They're going to give you problems, but you're going to learn from it, okay? Okay, another, so that is the square, and we're going to count. Let's count houses again. Or, sorry, my mistake. Signs. Signs, not houses. So this is 15 degrees Cancer. So we're going to go 15 degrees Leo, that's 1. 15 degrees Virgo, that's 2. 15 degrees Libra, that's 3. And why does this 2 degrees fall in? Actually, it's not. It doesn't fall in. Duh, because it's not an orb, right? But what does? This falls in with orb right there. This creates the square because 15 and 21 is 6-degree orb, so it falls within. But why wouldn't this one? This is a great lesson here because this would be this is more than 10 degrees apart. You know, if this was, this is a 12-degree difference. It's beyond that 10 degrees. So that's why it doesn't, that's why it doesn't, actually it's 13. It's 13 degrees difference. Laura cannot add today. But that's why it's beyond the 10-degree orb, okay? So I hope this is a little bit clear for you as far as the square is. Anywhere you see a square, and in my charts I always put squares in oppositions with red, so it shows me as a trigger as to what to expect, you know? So now we are going to go toward the trine and the good stuff. Trines are nice. So trine is 120 degrees, and it's basically, a trine is basically 4 signs away, okay? And it's considered an easy and harmonious aspect. It reveals natural abilities and, prospects that can be utilized by an individual in a with sufficient motivation. And motivation is key, I will say, because trines can come into your chart, and if you don't utilize them, you'll lose them. So sometimes people's charts could be so easy in life that they don't get a lot accomplished because some of those squares and those oppositions are there to help you push and to give you the drive. And sometimes people with a lot of trines don't have that drive, okay? Now, the best thing to do is when you look at your chart and you see where your trines are, you need to know so you can tap into that energy and utilize it for the greater good of yourself. So, in my chart, I have Pluto, 2 degrees, trining my Jupiter and Mars in my 6th house in Aquarius, okay? So, and a trine is 4 signs away. So we're going to do this. We're going to say Pluto is 1, and that's 2 degrees. So we're going to go Libra, 2 degrees. That's 1. Sorry. Wherever your starting point off is, you don't count that. You count the next sign as your 1. So it's Pluto in Libra, 2 degrees, and then here is 1. So you're going to go 2 degrees Virgo, okay? 2 degrees Sag is 2. Okay, 2 degrees Capricorn is 3, and 2 degrees Aquarius is 4, and there's your trine. But you're saying, hey, that's 2 degrees, and this is 8 and 9 degrees. But it falls within that orb now, doesn't it? So, this is 6 degrees away, which falls within the 10 degrees, and this is 7 degrees away, which still falls in, okay? So if this was, let's say if I had Mars at 20, I don't know, let's say I had Mars at like 29 degrees, it would be out of orb. It wouldn't be included in the trine, okay? Remember, it's always 10 degrees out. So what did this say? This says that pretty much if I work my buns off, Jupiter, Mars, 6th house, I would be able to bring money to me. Like money opportunities come my way. However, if I don't take advantage of it and I become lazy, I won't be able to take advantage of that coming my way. So trines are there, but you got to use those oppositions and those squares. They're the ones that give you the drive to get things done, okay? So, okay, that's a little bit about the trine. Now we're going to go, and I'm going to show you the sextile now. All right, here, sextile. Here we go. Now, what does this mean in my here we go. What does this mean in the chart? A sextile, it's an angle that is 60 degrees, and it's beneficial, and it usually represents opportunities and skills that can be capitalized on. So if you see a square like my square here, my square between, and I don't have them drawn in right. Oh, let me get my arrow for you guys so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the moon, my moon is square my sun and Venus. okay? But, what can help me out a little bit is my sextile here. Sextiles next to squares usually give you opportunity of where you can get out of your ruts or your problems. And what does this show? It's an opportunity with my career or my status in the world in my 8th house. There's some sort of opportunity. And what is 8th house? 8th house is astrology, things that are hidden, And I will say, if you look at my website, under the About Me section, I have a lot of this 8th house information if you need to know, but I won't get into it because this is going to be a very long video. So, but do you see this? There's an opportunity here, and here too. I work from home, right? And look at that. There's a sextile between my 6th house of work and health and home. So do you see how this is kind of going? All right, now I'm going to get into another. I'm going to show you one more aspect here. What am I going to do? I think the quintile. Now, the quintile shows you magical ability, and not everybody has it in their chart. And there's also septiles and noviles, too, which shows magical ability. And the quintile shows a talent. It's magical, gifted or magical ability. And you want to see where this is in the chart. So, and it's 72 degrees, which is basically 2 houses and 12 signs away. So you're counting, okay, this, let me get my arrow for you. I keep forgetting. Okay. So here, Sun and Venus is 19 degrees. Then you're going to go, and that's in Aries. Then you're going to go to Pisces, 19 degrees. That's 1. Then you're going to go Aquarius, 19 degrees. It's 2. Add 12 degrees, and you got this Jupiter and Mars. So this is where the quintile is coming from. There's a magical ability. There's some ability that I would have to do with my work. And if you read the About Me section in my website, you'll know what this is. I'm not going to get it all into this in this video. But, okay. So anyhow, there's also septiles and noviles, which I think I have in my chart too, but I don't think they show up on this screen. But anyway, I hope you kind of understand, because I didn't want this video to be super, super duper long. I hope this was you were able to kind of figure out how we look at, how we look at a chart and how we find the aspects. And I hope you're going to be able to, in depth, if you decided to take the class, we're going to go into all of these in depth, where I'm going to go through your whole charts with you, and us as a class will be doing each other's chart and discussing it, and we're going to discuss the meanings of some of these planets in the signs too. So you have to really have a grasp of basic astrology before you take aspects. And I'm also going to have to have colored pencils and stuff, because I'm going to say, okay, show me the opposition. You're going to have to draw in the opposition, or you're going to have to draw in the square. So this, this is supposed to be interactive and fun, but also it's a way that I can't see how you can teach aspects without screen sharing. I really don't. So hopefully this was informative to you and this was helpful. And this is just to give you an idea of my teaching style and how my classes will go. I hope to see you there, and I hope this video was quite helpful to you. Thanks for coming.